Hey everyone, welcome to the Livelong Podcast, where your health is your power. My name is Erin Hunter, and I am the senior editor here at Livelong Media, and I'm so pleased to welcome Sanae Ishida. Sanae is the author of the beautiful new book, Shibui, the Japanese Art of Finding Beauty in Aging. And it's all about aging with grace, joy, and celebrating the wisdom and beauty that comes with getting older. It's, in a nutshell, it's focusing on what's good about aging. And I am so excited to dive into it because we're going to learn how you can incorporate Shibui into your own life, other Japanese philosophies for aging well and healthy, and ultimately experiencing more joy and pleasure in your life. Before we get into this, though, real quick, our Women's Health Summit is coming up and tickets are on sale now. So I'd love if you could head over to Livelong Media and use my name, Erin, to get a discount on your ticket. And our live events are just so fun, everyone. You'll meet a really great community of women and basically good humans coming together to learn from the real experts on how to live longer and age healthier. And it's going to be a one of its kind event, so please head on over there. Now, without further ado, let's welcome Sanae to the show.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome. So, to start off, what is Shibui in your own words?
Shibui, in my own words, well, Shibui has many nuanced definitions, I would say. Um, but the definition that feels most relevant in terms of aging is that it is a very unique kind of beauty that emerges only with time. And the original meaning, though, was that kind of slightly astringent, kind of bitter taste that you get when you bite into a persimmon, a raw persimmon. It's very random. But then when you think about it, the idea is that as the persimmon ripens, the taste mellows and sweetens. So again, as you age, it ripens and sweetens and it's delicious.
That that's beautiful and pretty funny considering
Yeah.
back we looked at nature in order to figure out a philosophy for us and aging and
Yeah.
using it as something that can only get better with time. Like the
Yes.
persimmon can't get more bitter, it can only get sweeter.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
So when it comes to Shibui, in your title, you talk about the idea of finding beauty. It's in the title,
Mhm.
you're finding beauty. So in my mind, it feels more like an active quest. This idea of
Mm.
aging well is something you actively pursue. I was just wondering
Mhm.
if you could touch on that and what that means and the applications of finding the beauty and the joy of getting older?
Mhm. Oh, that's such a good question. I didn't think about it precisely like that, but yes, it is not only a search, a quest, but I think a participation. I think they're especially in Western culture, and I'm not saying that Japanese culture is also like, oh no, we all, are not afraid of aging or there's, no anti-aging creams or anything like that. It's just that I do think that as a Japanese American woman who grew up in the States, there is almost this denial of aging.
Mm,
And it's associated with negativity, with the decline. Whereas I think the idea of shibui is to actually find, like you said in the intro, the good in aging. I mean, we develop wisdom, maturity, we become confident and more secure and um, knowledgeable about who we are. And I think there's actually a, a like legitimate isn't the right word, but a true beauty in, the lines that we develop. And people are so afraid of just the wrinkling or the signs of time's passage. Whereas I think of, I mean, I see a lot of people, I notice women in particular, but I find myself looking for beautiful, natural looking older women. And my husband's grandmother was this just perfect example of that. Like she just aged beautifully. Her face was full of wrinkles, but they were the wrinkles of so much laughter and so much expression, and just you could tell she had a good time in her 94 years. And I mean, I think that's beautiful. And I think the message I wanted to convey with embracing Shibui, which, there's that definition of things that uh, become beautiful only with age, but it had also become associated with this folk movement of very simple, unassuming, elegant beauty. And
Mm,
I think that's also what I look for. And, you see it in nature, like, sure, the um, trees and flowers may go through their, from spring's full bloom to just kind of wilting a little in the summer, then dying off in the fall and winter. But I think in every stage, there's this refinement and just appreciation that you can have for their natural evolution. So,
wow, that idea of the natural evolution, I think that's pretty profound because it's looking at it and the way you even describe aging, you're describing it in a way that evolves rather than devolves, like,
yes,
physically
absolutely.
and whatnot. You're focusing more on the gains. And
Yes.
is that something you grew up with, though? Or is that something that other people we can learn to embrace it even for us Americans who grew up in a culture that's very, like,
No,
"No,"
don't do it.
because
don't
because
don't tell your real age.
right, because for I think for a lot of women and people who are gonna listen to this, they're gonna think, "Oh, wow, okay, it's beautiful, this refinement, this that's gorgeous." But I don't feel that way because they're so
Mm,
used to being told the other. So how do you
mm,
start to practice Shibui when it's something that is just non-intuitive to you
mhm,
culturally?
mhm. Well, because I have both. I mean, I do think it helps that I grew up with that, and definitely I went to Japan frequently. I still go fairly frequently, and I do notice there's much more of a reverence for older people and senior citizens and all that. But um, and there is a part in the book I talk about where menopause is kind of this taboo subject. I think it's being talked about a little bit more lately, but in Japanese, the word konenki, which is menopause, is actually considered a time of rebirth and rejuvenation. And it's when you actually come into your full being and your full strength. So I do think there is like a culturally different way. But to answer your question, I remember I used to color my hair, and I started when I was 40. I'm 54 now, and I decided that I was going to stop. It was just, too expensive, taking too long. I couldn't do it at home by myself. Like I was terrible at it. And it was staining things, all these things. And I talk about this in the book too. And I remember how self-conscious I felt when I stopped doing it. Like I felt like everyone was staring at me because it felt so wrong. Like I should be coloring my hair. And I even talk about how I'd gotten used to not coloring my hair, the grays coming in, and someone who I love dearly, much older gentleman, looked at my hair and said, "Why aren't you coloring your hair? Like your grays are really coming in." And then I looked at him and I realized I was like, "But I love my gray hair." And it was a shock to him. Like he didn't know what to say because it's the norm. That's the cultural norm here. And I do think you're right. Like it's because it is against the norm, it is more difficult, but I'm starting to see more and more women embracing their gray. And I think even with the book, that's kind of the message I'm trying to offer up. There is a different way. Um, And yes, it is a transition. There is discomfort, bucking the system or whatever. But I I think it has been a practice of just looking at all the signs of aging and being like, this, like, why is this not beautiful? I mean, it's sparkly, my gray hair. And sure, yes, I'm getting wrinkles, but I'm like, but look, I laughed and smiled so much. This is what is showing. And sure, there are maybe frown lines and worry lines too, but I have lived life and that's a wonderful thing.
It's a perspective.
It is a perspective, yeah.
It is. I is there when in all your trips to Japan, was there any wisdom that still sticks with you to this day, whether it's in the book or not, but anything that surprised you about the idea of aging and the way they embrace aging or look at aging that's differently than to what you grew up with or even thought?
Um, I mean, like I said, it was just sort of built into the fabric of society where you just understood that there was much more respect about aging. The elders were consulted because they were so much wiser um and I think yes, beauty too, but I think there's something about older people that like the Japanese people consider them very cute almost or sweet. And there's just this like real appreciation about the older people that I've noticed. Um, and a concept that I didn't come across until later. I mean, it wasn't specifically when I was visiting Japan, but it was something I had kind of noticed is there's a term called obaitori, and it's taking and I include this book, but it is taking the Japanese characters for four trees that blossom: the plum blossom, the cherry blossom, apricot, and the cherry, sakura. I need to remember the four. Anyway, they are all blossoming in the same season, but just at different times. Just, and they're all different, but they're all equally beautiful. And I think of that with people like it's a celebration of your uniqueness. It's about not comparing yourself because you are your own person. You're with your own set of characteristics and strengths and beauty. And uh, I feel like that is very evident in Japan. This kind of like, oh, it's okay to bloom later or, earlier, whatever it is. It's like you're going at your own pace. And so
Mm,
those kinds of things.
that it's that it's your what was the saying? Everyone walks on their own road. So the
Yeah,
Japanese see aging as you're on your own journey. It's not bad or good. It's not right or wrong. It shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be that way. It
yeah,
is how it is, and you
yeah,
have to embrace whatever tree that it decides to manifest as, in a
yeah,
sense, then.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
what would be your tree?
Oh, I mean, I feel like that's more metaphorical, but I actually think of myself more as a late bloomer then I talk about that too. There are all these Japanese blossoms that are known for being like, cosmos and spider lily flower. And I feel like I've always been a late bloomer. And I used to be kind of sad about that. Like, why am I not, the prodigy or like nowadays, I think it's even more fast paced and things are supposed to be done more quickly and at a younger age. Um, but as I get older, I'm like, I'm so glad I am a late bloomer. So I feel like if I were a flower, I think I would be the Japanese anemone.
Anemone like in Finding Nemo, the anemone an
Anemone, they look like ranunculus almost, but or like kind of like rose-ish, but they're usually like very pale colored, white, like light beige kind of color with these dark centers. They're really pretty.
That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
You gotta grow one in your home. You can always have that reminder of this
Yes.
is better late than never, they say.
Yeah.
I'm a late
Yeah.
bloomer. I consider
Oh,
myself.
okay.
Far
Good.
falling behind
Good.
always, but it's a
Yes.
good thing.
It is a
Um,
good thing.
so one thing I'm curious about though is you coming up with this concept for a book now, The Japanese Art of Finding Beauty in Aging. Why 2025/2026 is this book relevant? And especially where in the cultural context did you think, wow, this has to come to life, this book?
Um, well, I think it's always relevant. I personally started thinking about it in my mid 40s when it really like the aging signs really started to show up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm aging." I think it's one of those things where you know it's going to happen, but it doesn't hit you until you start seeing it. And I was thinking about what does that mean to age well? You know, what does aging mean? And that was when I was thinking about, wow, it's really associated with all these bad things, you know, like, oh, you know, my joints hurt. Oh, you're going to lose all these capabilities, and oh, you're going to become invisible, or you won't be able to work, you know, all these things. I'm like, what are the positive things about aging? And so I had been talking with my editor about like I'm really thinking about aging a lot, and I didn't quite have what the idea was, and we kind of tabled it for a while, and then my editor came back and said, "You know, I feel like there's something juicy in that concept of aging that you were talking about." And I had been thinking a lot more about. I was like, "Yeah, I've really been digging into my Japanese roots and sort of the ancient philosophies and ideas, and um, just really my mom and how she approaches aging, because my mom is aging very, very well." And I feel like I wanted to kind of bring that all together in my own background as having both the Japanese roots and the American perspective, and kind of seeing not only just a compare and contrast, but um, you know, what are the benefits? And like the Japanese obviously have a lot of impact for me, but I think there's also about the American side of um, the I don't know, more open-mindedness about a lot of things compared to Japanese, or the a willingness to innovate, the willingness to um, yeah, just be more, I think, physically affectionate too, which I don't see in Japanese culture. And I think that's a part of like human connection, the affection that I think is actually very important and nurtures a positive aging experience of, you know,
What's interesting is that in your book, you mention Sanagari, which is
tsunagari, which is connection.
which is connection, but yet you chose the Japanese form of it. So even though
Yeah,
you said Americans tend to have a little bit more of that outward connection, you chose the Japanese. Can you explain what that means to you?
sure. Oh, I'm not saying, I think everything I did want to approach all of it from more of the Japanese lens, because I think that is different from what we see here in the States. But I didn't want to be like, oh, the American way is wrong. I just felt like there's a way to incorporate both. And I think the aspect of that American open affectionateness, like I didn't, when I was growing up, my parents did not hug me. They did not tell me they loved, like that was not a thing to do in Japanese culture. I mean, at least not after I was about, I would say 6 or 7. There was like no touching. And it's, I mean, I hug them now because that's kind of my American side, right? But like if it was up to them, we would bow from a distance. You know? So like in that way, I think I really appreciate that. I think there's just something just wonderfully connecting about the hug, the holding hands, the kiss, whatever. And but I think at the same time, although the Japanese may not be physically demonstrative of affection, there is like a I almost feel like the Japanese have a sixth sense and they're very aware of other people's um what's the right word? Like there's a subtext that I think they pick up on really, really well that maybe is not as developed here in the West. And um, so, it's, I feel like their connection is more through subtle cues, more through a lot of like conversationally, like anticipating what would I don't know, bolster the conversation, and it's really hard for me to describe, but, um, yeah. So, pros and cons both ways.
Mm, and I think, I just what I'm noticing, it isn't either or, it's and.
No, no, and for sure, and that was what I'm trying to do with the book with here's an and to a way of looking at aging, you know? It is a it is not all downhill from here. It is not.
It can't be, that would be so demoralizing. I mean, how could
Yes,
you get out of bed if you just
I
knew
know.
it's over, Johnny, it's like
Right.
every day is gonna that would yeah, that would be a little bit too demoralizing.
Yeah, yeah. But
But,
yeah, so "tsunagari" is, the word for connection, and, yeah, I think I love all the different Japanese words for the concepts that I was, trying to view from the Shibui lens. So it was, beauty because I feel like that's a core aspect of Shibui and connection and wealth. What does wealth mean, especially as we grow older and um, perhaps, working is not on the table anymore. Um, I also have health, which is huge, obviously. We all want to be as healthy as we can. Um, and then I also look at mortality itself, death, because that is part of if we're lucky enough to live long or not. I mean that is our end game for everyone as a human being, and how Western culture tends to again like aging. No, 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 no. Death is like just a rumor. I don't know. I think it's true. It's not going to happen
uh-uh.
to me anytime soon. Right. Whereas I grew up, my parents talked about death all the time, and like just I used to read Japanese comic books growing up, and death is part of like everything in Japanese culture, and so it's not hidden or avoided or denied thing. It's just part, I think, it is considered not taboo, let's just say. So,
Do you think, from what you've learned when you're researching the book, culturally
mhm,
growing up, do you think there is definitely a certain like, making death less taboo, does that make life better? Like, for people
oh,
listening and we were for longevity and aging, people you wanna live long, right? You wanna
of
live
course.
more so a good life, but the phobia around death is quite real, I think, and it's not just for people who read it. I think for humanity, it's easy to be like, it's the black box you don't want to open because you don't know
Yeah,
what happens.
yeah.
But being exposed to it, do you think everyone should try to think about death a little more, not as a way of predicting or catastrophizing, but as a means to appreciating it more and appreciating life?
Yeah, 100%. I think there is, I mean, I've heard it from different circles. I mean, like a lot of spiritual circles, I guess, they talk about death. But I do think kind of confronting your mortality really makes you appreciate life. I have a chronic condition, an autoimmune condition, and I remember when I was at my worst, like when I was really my doctor told me like, "Well, things could get really bad," and I remember at that moment, like, all of the fluff, all of the inconsequential things just, like, vanished, and it just makes you laser focused on what's important, you want, and, um, sadly, that focus doesn't remain, you just kinda, like, go back into the minutiae again, but I think this kind of periodic practice of, like, remembering, like, "Oh, yeah, I'm not going to live forever," really allows you to reassess, like,
Mm.
what's important, what do I want my life to be, um, and I don't think it has to be a depressing thing. It could be like, I am given this time right now. What do I want to do with it? That, famous Mary Oliver quote, like, what are you going to do with this wild, precious life of yours? Or something like that. I can't remember the exact quote.
That's true.
Hmm.
In Japan, if it's so much more common, how funny is it that the Japanese are some of the longest living people? Now
Oh,
that could be
yes.
due to a lot of things,
Yes.
but there is something to be said that this is a culture that has embraced death. So,
Embrace death. And also, I do think I included a little segment about the Okinawa people who are in the blue zone.
mhm.
Um, and they have like the one of the largest populations of people over 100, but I think it's all the points that I hit on. It's like they really take care of their health. They are very active and well into old age. They have and purpose is another one that was included in my chapter as a chapter. um, they are very communal, and there's a lot of multi-generational households, and there's a lot of caring for each other, and um, they cultivate like the kind of wealth that's not just financial. I mean, it's like deep relationships, just a spiritual connection to the land, and everything else. And um, yeah, and obviously their diet is very good. So, and yeah, I feel like there is a definite connection, and they're part of the Japanese culture where they celebrate in August of every year. They have a celebration called Obon, which is basically the celebration of all those who passed away, or honoring the people who have passed away. And it's a huge deal in Japan. Like, everything shuts down. It's like vacation time. There's huge festivals.
So it's all coming in my mind to a culmination of like that word purpose that really stands out. And I think
Mhm.
as we wind down here, I'm curious your how Shibui, this concept of healthy, beautiful, joyful aging, has shaped your purpose. If it has, maybe it hasn't, but or vice versa, if purpose has been part of the reason you created this book.
Um, that is also a very good question. I'm trying to wrap my head around that. I think, for me, I'm trying to live Shibui, like live in a Shibui way. And um, and I do think it is a purpose for me to kind of live to appreciate the beauty of aging. Um, and all that comes with the word. Like, I create a little acrostic. Acrostic is when um, when you're little, you would have to take like the first letter of your entire name, like each letter of your name, and then come up with a word that describes yourself. So, like, S for Shibui, I came with a cross of like S is simplicity. The simplicity is very important. H is harmonious. So there's a lot of interconnectedness with nature and other people, all the beings. Like, we are a connected universe. Um, I is imperfection. So it is the appreciation, or not, I keep saying appreciation, but it's the acceptance that we're not supposed to be perfect. We are designed to age, we are designed to be imperfect, and that's okay. Absolutely okay. B is beauty, because that is the foundation of Shibui. And you is actually unpretentiousness, this like down to earthness, unassuming. Yeah, we're not trying to pretend to be someone we're not. And the last I is impermanence, because
Mm.
that is what we are.
That
And
is,
to
oof, that is gorgeous. It's very
um,
confronting. I'm not gonna lie. It is. It's very confronting, the Shibui acronym, because
mm,
a lot of those things are things imperfection,
yes,
impermanence. These are things that feel like they have a negative connotation on the surface, but and you saying by you living them out, for instance, if you
yes,
make a mistake in your life, you're like, "Oh, well, Shibui.
yes,
It's I'm a human,
yes,
imperfect."
yes,
It gives you a lot more grace to fearlessly make decisions and go about your life because
yes,
you know that there's no perfection. There's nothing you're trying to amount to.
right.
So I like that a lot.
Yeah, I there's a section that I include in reference to a lot of Japanese culture, craft skills, crafting techniques like kintsugi, which is the art of repairing broken pottery. That's how it started. So they would take broken fragments, glue it together with a special glue from a tree called urushi, and then from the sap, that would become the glue. And then they would add gold powder and paint to
Mm.
paint over the seams that were mended. So you see where they were broken, but they're made even more beautiful. And that, again, I feel like is so representative of like, yes, there are parts of us that are imperfect, may have been broken, may have been compromised or whatever you want, how you want to define it, but we can make it more beautiful. We can do our best to repair what we can and not hide it. It's okay.
And
So
that's aging.
that
Aging,
is aging. Yes.
disrepair happens, but that glue that holds you together and keeps you going,
Yep. Yep.
that's the beauty. That's the
Yep.
beauty of
Yes.
aging.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Last question. What
Okay.
is one piece of wisdom through your research of learning about Shibui and learning how to implement it in your life and now sharing this concept with the world? What's one piece of wisdom that you think is underrated and undervalued and should more people should know about? Or like a quote or something from
Oh,
Japanese ideology that you wish more people knew?
um, I mean, I love it's not from Japanese ideology per se. It is actually a quote ascribed to Buddha. We're not sure. And I'm hoping my AirPods will last here. But I love this. I finished the book with this quote where, in the end, only three things matter: how deeply we loved, how gently we lived, and how gracefully we let go of all that's not meant for us.
That's Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So
So
thank you for the quote. Thank you for coming here today.
thank
And
you.
thank you for highlighting Shibui, which is a philosophy I think is beautiful and will really offer grace to a lot of people.
I hope so. Yeah. Mm, thank
Thank
you. It's
you.
been an
Thank you.
honor. Yeah. And that quote, I mean, like all my quotes that I quote, it's probably slightly off, but that encapsulates basically the essence
We
of it.
like the
Right.
nutshell.
Yes.
We like the nutshell.
Nutshell.
The gist matters.
The gist is where it's at for sure.
It's a kintsugi quote. What can I say?
I know. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time.